So welcome to the fourth AGU Open Fair Data keynote address. And welcome also to our live streaming audience. So my name is Brooks Hanson. I'm the Executive Vice President for Science for AGU. And thank you all for joining us this evening. Earth and space science requires integrating data over space and time to understand Earth's and our solar system dynamics. These same data provide critical public and economic benefits and inform trillion-dollar society decisions. For example, access to real-time data is critical when a community needs to quickly respond to natural hazards. That's just one of many examples of the benefit of Earth and space science data. Thanks to a recent grant from the Laura and Arnold Foundation, AGU has partnered with ESIP, the Earth Science Information Partners, the Research Data Alliance, and many others to convene a project that promotes open and findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable or fair data in the Earth and space sciences. As a result of this work, which involved more than 300 volunteer community stakeholders working together over the past 18 months, major publishers and repositories will be providing researchers with fair data-informed workflows and helping them publish these data in Earth and space science journals, or as part of Earth and space science journals in repositories. The discussion this evening is a keynote for a whole series of sessions and workflows and workshops this week around enabling fair data in our science for the benefit of humanity. These include a union session tomorrow afternoon on enabling the fair data infrastructure and workshops for editors and researchers in the poster and exhibit hall. So please, please be aware of these and consider attending some of these sessions. So joining me for this keynote is Kara Hurst, who's the head of worldwide sustainability at Amazon. In her role, Kara leads Amazon's efforts to utilize analytics as well as geospatial and environmental data sets to bolster the company's sustainability work from sourcing to manufacturing to shipping. Further examples of how Earth and space science data provide broad benefit to society. Before she joined Amazon, Kara was the CEO of the Sustainability Consortium, a global organization developing science-based tools that advance the measurement and reporting of consumer product sustainability, which was listed as one of Scientific American's top 10 world-changing ideas of 2012. Please join me in welcoming Kara Hurst to AGU. So, Kara will be leading a discussion also with several colleagues who will join her shortly on how open data powers sustainability innovation. Kara, thank you.
Thanks so much. Hello, everybody. I am incredibly impressed with all of you who are coming to an evening session, making it through a day which I'm sure has been full of really interesting and in-depth content. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you for choosing this session. We're really excited to bring together this conversation and particularly to have the opportunity to do it at AGU. So thank you to everybody at the team here who's made that such a wonderful experience. I'm really, really honored to speak to you in particular, to this group here, researchers, scientists, policymakers. I feel like you are my people, and we have landed in a place where I think we are in the exact right place to share what we're trying to do with sustainability at Amazon. I know all of you are committed to Earth and space sciences for the benefit of humanity, putting science into action in an effort to solve some of the world's biggest challenges, and I think that is an incredible way to be able to spend your professional time, your personal time in those pursuits. And I feel equally lucky that I have a job, one that I consider to be one of the world's greatest opportunities, which is to integrate sustainability and to lead it to drive solutions for our customers at Amazon. In my work, I get to work closely with a number of amazingly talented scientists throughout all of Amazon, but particularly on our sustainability team, and some of them are here with us this evening. Some are AGU members, which is exciting. And we're a very data and science-driven organization at Amazon. And the sustainability team that we set up really reflects that. So I came to Amazon a little over 4 years ago and wanted to start, particularly with the background from the Sustainability Consortium and also seeing a number of companies run different sustainability organizations in different ways. I knew two things. One is that I wanted to start with a team on sustainability science and research. So we set that up, and we built a lot of the other work that we do feeding off of that team's information, their analysis, their perspective on what are the biggest issues that Amazon has to tackle. I also knew that I wanted to build a team that was integrated throughout all of Amazon, and that every one of my colleagues would feel like sustainability was part of what they do day to day, not just the sustainability team. So those are kind of how we organize and how we're thinking about sustainability at the company. The research team drives work across all of our businesses on Amazon, but we work on issues of renewable energy, sustainable transportation, waste diversion, circular economy, packaging, sustainable technology, and responsible sourcing. So it's a very broad, diverse set of issues, broad in scope and broad in depth. And we're committed to investing in the sustainability because we know our customers. First and foremost, we're a customer-obsessed company, our colleagues, and Amazon overall benefits when we can really integrate that sustainable thinking into our operations, our products, our services, and all of the communities where we live and work throughout the world. So in order to accomplish this, we also know that we need to set a number of public commitments around how we operate, as well as long-term roadmaps, projects, initiatives that we build into our business. And much like everything we do at Amazon, we embrace that and we experiment as we scale these initiatives. Some will have great success, and many of those will fail. It's something we're very comfortable with. We're comfortable with making big bets, aiming for the moonshots, and then failing when we need to and learning from that. We have principles we call leadership principles that incorporate things like think big, to make bold bets, and to invent and simplify in particular where possible. And I think that's very much aligned in a lot of ways with some of the things that AGU is trying to do, right? To make big bets, to think about how we invent and simplify our science so that we can bring it forward and have greater impact. One of our ways in thinking big is to continue to express support for climate change and action on climate change to accelerate the transition to a low-carbon economy. And we do this through work with other companies. We do it through policy initiatives, our work with policymakers and regulators around the world. So we don't do this alone. We know that the whole ecosystem of sustainability is going to necessitate critical relationships with a whole host of our stakeholders. One specific example of how we also work on these public commitments is through our long-term goal to power our global infrastructure with 100% renewable energy. And as part of this work, we've set a goal to host solar energy systems on 50 of our Amazon Fulfillment Network rooftops by 2020. Today, right now, we're halfway to that goal, which is exciting. We've done 25 solar rooftop systems that are operating in the US, and we have many more on the way. We've completed 30 large wind and solar projects across the United States, the most recent of which was our Amazon Wind Farm Texas. Some of you may have seen, we launched last year 253 megawatts in Scurry County, Texas, adding more than 1 million megawatt hours of clean energy to the grid each year. So these are large programs at scale. We're also committed to minimizing our carbon emissions by working to optimize our transportation network and implement energy efficiency in all of our buildings around the world. So in 2017, we signed the Sustainable Fuel Buyers Principles, which demonstrates our commitment to working with service providers to accelerate the transition to low-carbon commercial transportation solutions. And across Europe, Amazon is contracting with our service providers to launch our first low-pollution last-mile fleet. And our European delivery fleet is comprised of a growing number of low-pollution electric natural gas vans, cars for deliveries in some urban centers. So as we think about some of the impacts, I'm guessing that some of you in the room may have received a package from Amazon. Maybe more than one in this week. And when our customers purchase from us, we want that experience to really be the best. That includes receiving your item when you want it. It includes receiving that item undamaged, and hopefully what you experience is also receiving that item with minimal packaging waste around it. We have a set of multi-year waste reduction initiatives that we call frustration-free packaging programs. And these programs promote easy to open, 100% recyclable packaging, and they encourage all of our vendors and suppliers to send their product directly to our customer without the need for additional shipping boxes. So some of you may have experienced this. We also call this ship to known container. You get a product from us, it comes just as is without an Amazon overbox over it. And over the past 10 years that we've been at work on this, those programs, the frustration-free packaging programs, have eliminated more than 244,000 tons of packaging materials and avoided more than 500 million shipping boxes. And we've been ramping this up very rapidly. So to give you a sense of the scope, in 2017 alone, we eliminated 305 million shipping boxes and took out 16% of the waste out of our system. So these are some of the ways that we're really looking at how sustainability, again, integrates through everything at Amazon and how it touches our customers and makes it a better experience. We also know that we have a role to play as a company in the circular economy and supporting municipalities, supporting our partners, again, from that multi-stakeholder perspective, governments, municipalities, our customers, supporting them to participate in the circular economy. So last October, just a month and a half ago, I was really excited. We were able to put $10 million into a group called the Closed Loop Fund, which is a group, again, of multi-stakeholders that is looking at increasing the opportunities to recycle products and packaging. And that investment diverts 1 million tons of recyclable material from landfill into the recycling stream and will provide 3 million households across the United States with curbside recycling. So both reducing our own waste and enabling more opportunities for our customers and our partners to participate in the circular economy is a priority. We're going to keep prioritizing and evolving our work on sustainability at Amazon and listening to our customers, listening to people about how they want to shop their values, how they want to give their products a second chance or choose more sustainable practices. And tying this commitment together, the one thread that goes through all of our work is around science and data. We want to make sure that our customers can benefit from access to data in ways that improve their lives. And in the case of this audience here today, we know that by providing you with access to data, you have the skills and the commitment to apply this data in ways that will improve the lives of many people all over the world. We were really excited to see, alongside our own principles, AGU's core principles, to include the open exchange of ideas and information and the benefit of science for a sustainable future. So with that, and with all of you here today and the power that's represented in this room, I really thought it was a great place, and our team was super excited to talk about how open data can power sustainability and to announce today our new Amazon Sustainability Data Initiative, which is focused on democratizing data for sustainability. The Amazon Sustainability Data Initiative came together over many conversations between the Amazon Sustainability team and Amazon Web Services. Over time, we realized we could work together to improve access to data sets that Amazon needs to accomplish both our own sustainability goals while also empowering the broader global community of sustainability researchers. So over the last year, our teams have spent time engaging with those working in the private sector, academic institutions, NGOs, to help them understand their top sustainability challenges and to help us understand the challenges related to data and analytics. This has resulted in a number of key findings I want to share with you today. So data sets required for sustainability work are not always openly available to users because of political, economic, and infrastructure factors. When these data sets can be located, they are often distributed across multiple sources that use different interfaces for data retrieval. And as a result of this, researchers and innovators tell us they spend significant portions of their time locating and retrieving data, thereby duplicating efforts. As a result of all of that information, we wanted to remove some of the heavy lifting identifying these data sets that are foundational to exploring given sustainability domains. For example, things like climate or weather, energy, and hosting them on the AWS cloud. One of our key goals with this initiative is to have researchers and innovators, just like all of you in the audience, and located around the world, those of you who are live streaming with us today, spend your valuable time generating solutions for sustainability instead of searching for and waiting to download data. Because another challenge that we noticed in all of this is that sustainability data sets continue to increase in size. This can be problematic because data acquisition and analysis can be constrained by computing resources, which limits the speed and types of analysis or application development. The Amazon Sustainability Data Initiative addresses this by using our AWS infrastructure, which can be scaled on demand. Of course, many fields of study have to deal with these complex dynamics. We're not alone in this. But sustainability does also face an additional challenge. Sustainability's processes are particularly complex because environmental, social, and economic systems are deeply interdependent. This means the impact from changes in one system are not always well understood or predictable for another system. In order for researchers and innovators to capture the multidimensional nature of sustainability challenges and provide accurate and timely results, many are exploring the use of more complex analytical tools. For example, things like machine learning algorithms. Those expose useful insights from the data. Access to that underlying expertise and the capabilities to apply these techniques is not yet widespread across the broader sustainability community. I do have a machine learning group within our sustainability team, and when I talk to my colleagues who lead sustainability in other companies and organizations, that is a very unique capability to have for a sustainability group. The thing about the cloud is it can provide access to services that enable developers and data scientists to quickly, easily build, train, and deploy machine learning models. So we believe that enabling better access to large data set in the cloud promotes modeling and analysis at scale, and that this scale was previously limited to institutions with access to supercomputers and dedicated data centers. The AWS Public Sector Program has been driving this change for the last 10 years, and now we hope to apply what we have learned to help address sustainability problems such as the impacts of climate change. Examples of data sets that are already available through this initiative include weather observations and forecast data, climate projections data, satellite imagery, hydrological data, air quality data, and ocean forecast data. Our hope with this new initiative is that it will significantly reduce the cost, time, and technical barriers associated with analyzing large data sets, to generate sustainability insights regardless of your organization's scale, size, or local computing capacity. We consider this an important step towards the democratization of data as we work together to build this more sustainable future. I want to give you one impact, and one positive impact in particular, of open data. Looking to NASA and the U.S. Geological Survey's Landsat program, which is being hosted in the Amazon Sustainability Data Initiative catalog right now. The Landsat program used to charge for access to imagery produced by Landsat's Earth-observing satellites. In 2008, as some of you are probably aware, USGS determined that charging for access to Landsat data was hindering research because scientists couldn't afford to acquire the data. As a result, the U.S. government made Landsat data freely available on the web, and the demand for this data rose 100-fold in 3 years. Since making Landsat data free and open, insights from this data have generated billions of dollars in the United States. In northeastern Iowa alone, it is estimated that Landsat data helped improve agricultural outcomes, producing an estimated $538 million in economic value per year, by enhancing the analysis of the quality of crops, allowing for proper allocation of irrigation resources. This is just one concrete example of how open data can power innovation and sustainability. And to continue to hear more about these powerful data use cases, my colleague Doug Van Dyke, who's Director of U.S. Civilian Government and Nonprofits for Amazon Web Services, will join the stage in a moment for the next part of our discussion. Doug will also introduce our panelists who will share their stories about producing and using open data to help solve some of these global environmental challenges. So in closing, I want to invite you into our initiative. I also want to personally thank you very, very much for having us here tonight, for your interest in our work, for the opportunity to share the launch of the Amazon Sustainability Data Initiative. And we really hope to be part of this community. We join you, we're united by a passion for science, and we're driven by the profound effects that all of our work can have on others, on our communities, our nations, and our world. At Amazon, when we say this is what science stands for, we too include sustainability, open data, and shared access to drive new insights and solutions for the sustainability of the planet. Thank you very much.
So I grew up in northeast Iowa, and my parents were corn and soybean farmers. So I would like to thank Brian Killough and the NASA USGS team who did the Landsat information, because it's a great economic results there. So as Kara was saying, my name's Doug Van Dyke. I started with Amazon about 7 years ago, Amazon Web Services in particular, to help build the federal and the nonprofit verticals within AWS. And what we really quickly realized was that we had customers. It's, the superheroes really are our customers. We had some of the most valuable data, our customers did, in the world. And it's my pleasure to bring on stage two of the gentlemen who are the curators and owners of the most valuable data in the world. So with that, I'd like to bring up John O'Neill from Noaa and Brian Killough from NASA. So John is a director of the Noaa Big Data Project, where he leads the project's efforts to make Noaa's data more accessible to the American public. He's worked as an IT professional for over 20 years, working in the pharmaceutical and banking industries prior to joining Noaa. Dr. Brian Killough is the head of the Committee on Earth Observing Satellites, CEOS, the Systems Engineering Office at NASA Langley Research Center. Under the leadership of Dr. Killough, the Systems Engineering Office has a significant role in the new Open Data Cube initiative for enhanced global use of large volumes of satellite data. So this is, I'm going to host a very intimate fireside chat. So if you can imagine fire going, and I'm sitting down smoking a pipe in a robe. It's late afternoon, so just work with me here. So John, I've heard a statistic that Noaa produces 20 terabytes of data per day. And if you had a 50 megabyte download, it would take almost 2 days to get a single terabyte of this. So I think hosting these data sets in a place that it's common, easily accessible is an important step in Noaa, the way that you're accessing data. So can I ask, with the Noaa Big Data Project, what problems specifically are you trying to solve? Is it accessibility, or are there other things that you're trying to solve with that?
I guess they're on. So we are trying to work to reduce barriers to accessing Noaa data. So we've found over the course of 3.5 years of the project that, when you put data on the cloud, the use of the data goes up dramatically. And so NextRad being an example, Noaa has always had the NextRad archive available. But when AWS onboarded that data set, there was a 15-year archive that they onboarded. A group out of Cornell used it to look at bird migration patterns. So the data were always available. Computers were always available. But putting the data and the compute in the same location allowed this innovation to happen.
So who would you consider your customers are that use that data?
I mean, the data is, for the American people and for academics and nonprofits and sustainability, really anybody that wants to innovate and feels that they can use the data.
Excellent. Kara mentioned a little bit about the USGS NASA partnership with Landsat, and about the economic, the 1.8 billion, I think, in just the year 2011, the value that imagery brought. So is this the essence of what NASA is doing with Earth observation, or what problems are you trying to solve with NASA and Earth observation?
So I work for this Committee on Earth Observation Satellites, which is 28 space agencies around the globe that come together, and our primary purpose is to get the satellite data in the hands of more users around the globe to tackle these problems. So data access we have found to be one of the primary issues, and just the ease of use of the data. So there's two things that we're working on together with the space agencies and the ones producing these data products, and that is, can we get them into locations and in the cloud to make them easily accessible for many people, and can we also put them in formats like what we call analysis-ready data so that the pre-processing burden is reduced. And we have found that the more we can do of that, getting it easier to use and in a place that's easily accessible, will promote a lot more use of the data and therefore a lot more value in the end.
Well, I'd like to ask you the same question that I just asked John. Who are your customers that are using this data?
Well, for us, it's all around the globe. But I like to think that most of the people in this room here are very familiar with this data, and it's relatively easy for you to get your hands on it, to use it, and make sense of it. Where I think there is a challenge and yet an opportunity is the users around the rest of the world, and I would say the developing countries. If developing countries have access to this data, and they don't have to go through the burden of pre-processing, and they can easily find it and use it, I think that's an area where we would see an incredible increase in the use of the data and its value. So I think that's one of our targets now, and I'm seeing that in a lot of the initiatives we're doing within CEOS, is focusing on what I would call non-traditional users of the data.
Thank you. John, 20 terabytes of data a day, that's a lot of data. Can you talk about some of your data challenges?
Yeah, so Brian kind of mentioned it before, but one of the challenges is the ease of accessibility. It's not, whether it is or is not accessible, because, most Noaa data is open data and is accessible, but, putting it on a platform with, high scalability and seemingly, unlimited compute resources allows for computing on the cloud, accessibility of very large data sets that would otherwise be very difficult to access.
Thank you. Brian, data-related challenges that you've encountered, you hinted a little bit at making it accessible. So is there metadata? What are the requirements? As opposed to just archiving the data, how do you make it accessible?
So I think it's the large volumes are a problem, and they're a problem for a smaller country to store it on their own. So having it in the cloud solves much of that. But we're pushing this new idea of analysis-ready data, and I think that's where we need to go to make the data in a format that is usable by a large number of people, by what we call the majority of the users. So not everyone will want the analysis-ready data in the form that we're promoting. And so there's this difference between level 1 data and level 2 data and all these levels of products. But if we can put that data into a format that's usable for a majority of people, I think it's just a tremendous advantage. Because we're certainly finding around the world people don't want to pre-process. It's just too complicated. And just imagine, for those of you that have dabbled with some of the new European data and Sentinel, and I'll talk about our friends in Europe, that data, Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, is fantastic data. But I challenge many of you to go out and download a Sentinel-1 data set and pre-process it on your own, and it's a little bit of a burden to do so. And so what we have to do is, can we find out a way to make that data readily available in the cloud, pre-processed, ready to use? Imagine that, what that'll gain in the long run.
Thank you. So Brian was talking a little bit about how he's used the cloud along the process to make data available. John, how does Noaa use the cloud to make data available?
Yeah, so through the Noaa Big Data Project, we work with AWS and a number of other collaborators to either, stage data that's been requested for a variety of reasons and make it more easily accessible. So we're using it as a storage medium at the moment, but looking at other things like compute and other opportunities.
Okay. What is it? It's all about the data. But when you're talking about such large data sets, having the tools next to those data sets, I think, is important for the researchers. You know, I talked a little bit earlier about, you know, if you're doing 20 terabytes of data a day, it would take 2 days to pull down just 1 terabyte at, you know, a 50 megabit download. So you know, how are you using the tools that are next to the data in Noaa's circumstance? And are you finding that the researchers and those other organizations that are using the data, are they doing that, or are they pulling it down on site?
I think we see some of both, but I think see the trend going as people become more comfortable with the cloud, using more of the compute resources and the tools in place. You know, so, you know, our role in the big data project is to lower the barriers and make things possible, to provide the data for the researchers on the cloud, and then, you know, the researchers take it from there, and they go with the, you know, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and all the other tool sets that are available.
Brian, can I put that on you too? Sure. What is NASA doing with that respect?
So again, I'll speak for CEOS, not necessarily for NASA,
okay.
because representing more of these space agencies and what our challenges are, I think that's important. What the cloud gives us is the ability now, with the data being stored in one location, to pull those tools next to that data and to perform analytical processes and develop products. We noticed a few things. So with developing countries in Africa, we're teaching them through a data cube process where the data cube is in the cloud and we connect some tools to that. They're able to produce cloud-free mosaics and products on the fly in a matter of minutes that one of the users told me took more than a month, because in the past they were downloading the data, pre-processing it on their own, and just going through very long processes. So imagine a matter of minutes to months. That's a huge advantage for them. So with things that, like the Amazon cloud, you can pull these resources together and you don't have to necessarily download the data. And again, as you had suggested about people becoming more comfortable with it, I'm certainly seeing this trend of fewer people are downloading the data and just utilizing it on the cloud. And through the AWS Data Set Initiative, that's going to get us a lot closer to that idea.
Now, so I love that example, because I think we're starting to see where having the tools, having the large data sets, and potentially multiple data sets together in a location that's easily accessible is enabling you and your customers to do things that weren't previously possible. Does either of you have other examples inside of your agencies or across CEOS where you were able to do things that weren't previously possible?
I have one example, and that has to do with data interoperability. And trying to use multiple data sets together is very difficult to do if you pull that data down and try to do it on your own. But if we can put the data together in proper formats in the cloud, and then just with a few algorithms, we can look at Sentinel-2 and Landsat data together, or we can interoperably use optical data and radar data from Sentinel-1 together to tackle the same problem. So we're doing this in Africa, where it's a very cloudy part of the world. Well, Landsat does not do a wonderful job there. But if we use Sentinel-1 data by itself, it only comes over every 12 days. Well, if we can pull Landsat together with Sentinel-1 in the same framework and infrastructure, and we look for water, we can do a great job, and we'll see it more often, and we'll get a lot more information. So interoperability, to me, is one of the huge advantages. Multiple data sets together in one framework is really powerful.
All right. John, do you have a thought?
Yeah, I'll just comment that, you know, we frequently encounter small companies that are using, for example, like GOES 16 data and now GOES 17 data, which is both are available on AWS, doing new and innovative things. So it's the access to the data, the availability of the data, and the ability to do the compute that is making that happen. So we encounter these companies. It's, you know, it's economic development. It's people hiring, you know, more and more people to build out their companies as they work through these products.
Okay, great. Does either of you, so it sounds like open data or making the data sets that your agencies or organizations have is now an important part of accomplishing your mission. Does either of you have any advice for other agencies, other organizations that are either considering putting data sets out or considering using these open data sets?
I guess my advice would be, if you're putting your data out there, to put it in a format that is analysis ready. We're trying to get the space agencies around the world to do that, limit that pre-processing burden on the users, and I think you'll find many more people using that data.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that you see a trend of the open data programs becoming more and more prevalent and it becoming more of a core part of various federal agencies' mission.
Okay, since you both have very interesting data sets, John, I'm going to put you on the spot first. What do you think that we may learn from these data sets now that we've got that, now that we've got them open for the mass to consume and researchers to openly access? What do you think that we might learn that we wouldn't have otherwise? And Brian, I'm going to ask you the same question as a follow-up. So,
I think honestly, I tell my children this. I say you live in an age of science fiction, right? So you live in an age when things that used to be science fiction are now real, and I think that the potential is unlimited. It's not limited by necessarily compute power or storage. So really, it's only limited by people's imagination and innovation.
well, I think, yeah, oh, sorry, Brian.
Yeah, sure. I again point back to this, my examples in the developing countries and specifically in Africa. I think what we find ourselves doing is most of the people in this room here and the papers that I've seen throughout AGU are typically analyses done in regions that you are aware of or that you live in. And so you see a lot of papers about the United States, see a lot of papers about Europe if there's Europeans, and you don't necessarily see a ton of papers about things that are happening around the globe. If we can get others around the globe to be using this satellite data, I think what we're going to find out is problems in Africa can be solved, and we can learn more about land change in Africa and the water extent and water quality and urbanization and all these problems in the fastest growing portion of the world. And I think that's really exciting, and teaching them how to do it is even more exciting.
Excellent. Well, I know that we have another set of questions, but I think at this point I'd like to invite Kara back up on stage and open it up to, we have some questions that came in from the audience, am I correct? Okay. And thank you both. I know we're going to thank again, but thank you. That was excellent.
So I'm not big on cigars, but I do like the fire, so that's good.
It was a pipe anyway.
So I'd like to just ask a few questions kind of selected to focus on, I think we had a good discussion about the current state and the emerging state of data in the cloud, both for sustainability and for research. And so I'd like to ask a few questions really focused on what are the next steps and what's the future look like, and how do we empower policies and practices for the future of sustainability, specifically at the intersection of public data sets and private data sets and enabling that. So, and we'll just go down the line. Kara, maybe we'll start with you, and if others have some comments to add on this, that would be great. So what has your kind of sustainability work and large data work taught you about the intersection of the public and private sectors? How do we accelerate this? How do we expose the right private data? How do we leverage the intellectual and the data capacities in both, and what have you seen work well and not work well, or what could we improve?
Sure. Thanks for that question. It's one of my favorites because I spend a lot of my time thinking about how our different sectors relate to each other and how we speak to each other and what the particular talents of different parts of our whole kind of ecosystem and sustainability incorporate. So in sustainability, we have the very much the sort of opportunity, and I think unique opportunity, to think very holistically. So I spend my days thinking a lot across business domains, across business teams, across issues. I think about water both as an environmental issue and a social issue, for example. We think about how those issues intersect and what are the consequences of that and what are the unintended consequences of the decisions that we make. So when we think about all of that, I also approach our partnerships and these opportunities in the same way, and just listening and reflecting on your comments, I think there's unique skills that each of the parts have been, kind of developing. So scientists have incredible research skills, and folks that I have the opportunity to work with at AWS have incredible skills in terms of teaching what the cloud can do and, lending that computational power out. And folks who are working on resiliency and adaptation and mitigation strategies around climate change in our cities around the world have an incredibly unique perspective about what's happening on the ground. And so I think a lot about how we can connect those different parties together, and where can scientists come in and speak to city managers, and where can city managers tell scientists what they need in terms of information, and how can we speak the same language, and then what can our company, as one of many who are working on this, bring to the table in terms of resources to facilitate that. So that's how I think
great.
about it.
And so from the other side, from public institutions like NASA and Noaa, how do you see the partnership evolving to be most productive?
Yeah, so the Big Data project is ostensibly a public-private partnership, right? So we have been working at this for 3.5 years. We feel like we've, found a point where we can achieve mutual goals between the public sector and the private sector. And at the moment, we're looking forward to a more sustainable partnership to try to figure out if this is amenable to everybody. How do we keep this going?
On NASA's view?
I'll just comment on the work we've been doing with data cubes around the world. And if we're using open data sets and making this data available, we're opening it up to both public and private opportunities. And we're seeing that in some of our cubes we've built South American and Africa, where private sector has come in and developed some algorithms and some products and using that. And it's quite exciting to see that it can go in both directions, both for the governments and ministries as well as for private entities.
Yeah, sure, I can finish. So what we've learned with our public data sets, we have 70 of them, so we've gained some experience over the time, is public sector and the nonprofits have the interesting data. And it is important to have the owners of the data, the curators of the data, be responsible for it. So we provide the storage location, we provide the tools to access that data. But I'll talk, since NASA and Noaa are on stage with me, having NASA and Noaa curate the data, maintain its integrity, and that source of authority is very important. And that's where I see the partnership working really well.
Great. So specifically on the topic of sustainability, so how do you see, how do we accelerate progress on sustainability, either using these data, what other data would be wonderful to have to kind of develop sustainability, both in the U.S. and especially internationally? Kara? Yeah.
I mean, certainly from my perspective, I would say we're looking at our fulfillment network and our impact through that, and I think transportation information, information about dense urban areas, how people are moving around, what the opportunities are, to rethink some of that. We all know that transportation modalities are evolving rapidly. They're changing. The opportunities to move within dense urban areas are changing rapidly. So for me, it would be something around that in sustainability, because I think that's where we're going to actually also, with electrification of the grid, with some opportunities with new technologies, I think that we're just going to see tremendous change in the next decade.
Yeah, and I'm not a sustainability expert, so but what I see the role of Noaa potentially being in that equation is to simply, make as much of our data easily accessible as possible to sort of unlock the possibilities of the data.
I'd like to see more diverse data sets available. So it's not just the satellite data, but there are many other data sets that we need to answer questions about sustainability. And if they're all together in one infrastructure, there's a big advantage.
Yeah, so I think Kara said it during her keynote. the partnership within Amazon between Kara's team on sustainability and Amazon Web Services is important because she's using these data sets to help with Amazon's sustainability initiative. So diversity in data sets, more data sets, and then the continued use and experimentation and refinement of what we already have, I think is all going to be very important.
And so the next question I have is what, I mean, you've talked about how these government agencies, how NASA and Noaa are using data, and how Amazon and other large companies are using this data. Let me turn it around and say, over the last, both in the U.S. and Europe, there's been a variety of policy initiatives for open data that some of you all are acting on. And what, if you turn around and say, what would you tell the policymakers now on how to improve those efforts, refine them, make them better to support some of the things that you're talking about and sound data practices? And maybe we'll start at the end and go the other way.
I was lifting up out of my seat, and I didn't raise my hand, but I was close.
So now's your chance to speak to
the
people in this center
in the audience. So oftentimes there is a requirement for archiving data, and we will get archived data. Archived data typically isn't in a format that is easily usable by research organizations, by scientists, by researchers. And so more important than just saving the data is saving it in a usable format. I believe Brian made a perfect analogy saying, this is important when you archive the data to have the right metadata associated with it so you know what you're archiving, have it in the right format, understand what data is in what columns. John and I think, I can't remember who, we had a discussion about the different formats of archiving data and how important it was just to make sure you know which time zone the data is in. Because when you're archiving Noaa data, if you have the wrong time, date format, it makes that data almost useless. Or you have to back in or create some complex algorithm to undo it. And so it's very important when you're archiving the data to archive it in a usable format. And I'm sorry, I got on my soapbox,
okay.
Now I'm off.
So NASA, the policymakers have been telling you what to do. What would you like to tell them to do?
Now it's my turn if there's any policymakers. I don't know if there's any out there, but I would say keep your data open. By golly, do not reverse that decision that we've going down this great path of open data. I think it's fantastic. So let's keep doing that. Let's create time series data as well. So we want to continue to take the same kind of data continuously and consistently over time because there's a lot of value there. And then I've been on this soapbox in promoting analysis-ready data. Give it to us in a form that we can use with little burden.
I would just echo Brian, the more open data, the more innovation.
And Carrie, you get the last word on this?
I think I maybe speak less as an Amazon sustainability person, as someone who worked previously at the federal level and at the local level in politics, is just, as policymakers, don't be afraid to ask tons of questions, because I think sometimes the language of tech can be alienating. And if you don't understand cloud computing or there's questions about it, it's probably not the right audience in this room because you all are deeply into these issues. But I do see a lot of times when I'm in conversations with multiple stakeholders around the table, the conversation can go down a particular pathway which can be alienating to people whose other focus is around how do I create policy on this. And so I think closing those gaps about how we understand what language we use, how we create good policy means involving everybody around that table and understanding what the opportunities are, what the needs are. So policymakers' voices are absolutely vital in that conversation to continue to ask questions. And people at the local level sometimes have absolutely the best information. They know what they need.
And so the last future question, and maybe our last question, and given the huge number of students we have here at AGU, what advice do you have for them on thinking about a career in this, or the skills that you're looking for at Amazon, particularly in the Washington, D.C. area, since there might be some hires here in the near future, or similarly in some of the big data efforts at the government? What skills are you looking for? What do we need for our future talent pool for enabling all the things that we've talked about today?
I guess a couple observations from having a sustainability science and innovation team at Amazon is one, being able to go very, very deep on technical concepts and then being able to translate those into business language and explain them to different stakeholders. So a little bit similar to the policy comment I made before, I think that ability to be what I would call multilingual. I spent a lot of my career in the public sector, and then started working in sustainability consulting, and had to learn to really speak, language of business, and again, then translate that back and forth sometimes between public sector stakeholders and the business clients that I had. And so I think being able to do the same, and the fluidity of that, being able to do a data analysis as well as other types of analysis, being able to see opportunities where companies don't. So again, while we've built this approach at Amazon, love to see other companies, other folks, kind of following suit, doing the same type of thing. So even if maybe a place that you're working doesn't have a focus on sustainability, bring it up, ask the questions, kind of drive that opportunity, even if it doesn't exist currently.
And how about in the government agencies? What are you looking for?
I think, for the students, I would say think big in terms of, what their aspirations are, right? The ability to, create these interoperable data sets from disparate sources, can unlock, many new mysteries, And in terms of, I think that a diversity of academic disciplines is important because, everybody thinks a little bit differently. And bringing that to the table, around these resources and capabilities, I think is going to be, a good path forward.
We need coders. Go learn Python.
And we have a couple Python workshops at the HU this week.
I'm amazed, right? We get these young programmers are just amazing what they can do with the data. And so imagine now we're in this world where all this data is going to be free and open, available out on the cloud. And what do we do with it? And some of the computational methods and algorithms that can be developed in the products are remarkable. And I'm seeing more and more really amazing things. So much of it's coming from these Python coders. The other thing I would say is to ask you to help us define what the data product should be on the cloud. Not just taking something that the space agency says, oh, this is available, go throw it on the cloud, but actually telling us what is the most sensible thing for somebody like Amazon to host. What should that analysis-ready data look like, and who will be the users? And helping us define that is really important.
Yeah, I'm going to tie this one, I'm going to echo what Brian's saying. I'm going to tie this one back to sustainability. So our sustainable data sets, first of all, this is all about our customers, and it's about what's important to our customers and bringing us these data sets forward. So first of all, you have to understand what data is, you have to understand what data is important, and then you have to bring it forward and understand how to use it. And we judge, you can submit your data sets to us, we will review these, and if they fall in line with one of our sustainable initiatives, we will host it. It will become part of our open data set initiative. I would love to see students doing that. I'd love to see, anyone who does this is, adding value to the community and adding value to sustainability. So it's all about the data, and you have to know it and let the data speak for you.
So I want to take this time to thank our Kara and the other panelists that we've had up here, and hope we've given you a snapshot of what the current public-private partnership on large data is and might be in the next few years. So please thank Kara and our panelists here, and please participate and learn more about this through some of the data fair sessions and workshops throughout the week. So thanks again. So Kara and others have to run up to the diversity and inclusion reception. So you might see her up there if you're going there. And we look forward to seeing you throughout the week. Thank you.